You're just cutting an onion. Nothing dramatic. No sad movie playing, no bad news, nothing. And within 10 seconds, you're standing at the counter with tears running down your face like something just broke your heart. Meanwhile, the onion just sits there. It didn't do anything to you, except it did. And here's the part that should genuinely bother you. This isn't an accident. It isn't some random side effect of chopping vegetables. The onion is doing this on purpose. It's been doing this for tens of millions of years, long before you were born, long before humans even existed to stand in kitchens crying about it. You are not crying because you're sensitive. You are crying because a plant is winning a war it started before you even picked up the knife. Most people have some version of the same explanation ready to go. It's the fumes. Something in the air just happens to bother your eyes. That's technically true, but it undersells what's actually happening by a huge margin. What goes on inside an onion in the moment you cut it isn't just a smell escaping into the air. It's closer to a two-part chemical weapon being triggered. And once you understand exactly how it works, you'll never think of a kitchen knife the same way again. And this isn't unique to onions either. Garlic, leeks, shallots, chives, this entire family of plants runs some version of the same defense. Onions just happen to be the most aggressive about it. So let's start with what an onion actually is before anyone touches it. Sitting whole on your counter, it is, chemically speaking, completely calm. Inside its cells, it stores two separate ingredients, and the entire trick depends on keeping them apart. One is a sulfur-based compound dissolved in the cell's fluid. The other is an enzyme called allanase, sealed away in a different part of the cell. As long as the walls separating those two things stay intact, nothing happens. No smell, no sting, no tears. It's a loaded weapon with the safety switched on, just waiting. Then you bring in the knife. The second your blade slices through those cell walls, thousands of them rupture at once, and the two separated ingredients finally meet. That collision happens almost instantly, producing an unstable new compound called sulfenic acid. On its own, that still wouldn't be enough to make anyone cry. But onions have one more move left. A second enzyme, one researchers only properly identified and named in 2002, grabs that unstable compound and rearranges it into something new entirely. A gas called syn-propanethyl S-oxide. You don't need to remember that name. What matters is what it does. This gas is light. It rises off the cutting board, and it drifts, more or less directly, toward your face. Why your face specifically? Because your eyes are already coated in a thin layer of liquid, your tear film, and that gas dissolves into it almost instantly. The moment it touches that liquid, it forms a diluted acid right there on the surface of your eye. Not enough to cause real damage, just enough to genuinely sting, and your body doesn't pause to think it over. The nerve endings in your eyes detect that irritation in a fraction of a second and immediately signal your tear glands to flood the area and flush it out. That flooding is the crying. You were never sad. You were being rinsed, on command, by your own nervous system. Here's the part that reframes everything you just learned. This entire chain reaction is not some accidental byproduct of chopping vegetables. It's a defense mechanism, and it is aimed squarely at whatever is attacking the onion, which, in this case, happens to be you. Onions can't run. They can't hide. They can't fight back physically. So, over an enormous stretch of evolutionary time, they built a chemical alarm system that punishes anything that tries to bite into them, whether that's a hungry insect, a burrowing animal underground, or a human being standing at a cutting board on a random Tuesday night. You're not an unlucky exception to this system. You are exactly who it was designed for. Now here's where it gets genuinely useful, because you've probably heard a dozen different tricks for stopping this, and some of them are real science, while others are just kitchen folklore that refuses to die, no matter how many times it's debunked. Chilling the onion in the fridge before you cut it actually works, because cold temperatures slow down the enzyme reaction, meaning less gas gets produced in the first place. Cutting it underwater, or near a running tap, also genuinely works, because the gas dissolves into the water instead of finding your eyes. Wearing swimming goggles while you chop, which looks completely absurd standing in your own kitchen, is also legitimately effective, because it physically blocks the gas from ever reaching your tear film. But holding a piece of bread in your mouth, chewing gum, lighting a candle nearby, none of that has any real mechanism behind it at all. Those are comfort rituals passed down like recipes, not actual chemistry. There's also something you've probably noticed without ever really questioning it, which is that some onions absolutely destroy you, while others barely register. That's not random, and it's not really about the size of the onion either. It comes down to sulfur content, which depends heavily on the soil the onion grew in, and the specific variety it belongs to. Sweet onions, like Vidalias, are deliberately bred to carry lower sulfur levels, which is exactly why you can slice through one without your eyes even flinching. Regular yellow onions, the ones doing the heavy lifting in kitchens everywhere, are essentially the opposite story. More sulfur stored inside means more gas released the moment you cut in, means more tears streaming down your face by the time you're done. And there's one more twist worth sitting with, because not everyone reacts the same way to the exact same onion. Some people cry buckets from a single slice. Other people can chop an entire onion and barely tear up at all. Some of that comes down to simple things, like how close your face is to the cutting board while you work. But part of it is genuinely just individual variation in how sensitively your nerve endings respond to that specific irritant in the first place. Some people are simply built to absorb the hit a little better than others. There's no toughness or weakness involved here. It's just biology, distributed unevenly. The same way some people sunburn faster or feel the cold faster than everyone else, standing in the exact same room. So the next time someone hands you a cutting board, a knife, and an onion and says you're on chopping duty tonight, you're not just doing prep work for dinner. You're stepping directly into a fight that a plant spent millions of years designing specifically to make you lose. It built a compound that turns your own eyes against you the instant you attack it, and for a few uncomfortable seconds, every single time, it wins. You stand there blinking, tearing up over a chopping board, completely betrayed by a vegetable that never moved an inch the whole time. It didn't do anything to you, except it did. And now, finally, you know exactly how.